leaders, why executive leadership in law enforcement really is more than just a badge. Let me be very clear at the onset. This podcast is not personal. It is not political, and it's not about personalities. This is about executive judgment. Because when you serve as sheriff, your words and your actions, well, they just don't reflect you only. They reflect the values, the discipline, and certainly the credibility of the entire sheriff's office. And when those words and actions are repeatedly impulsive, inflammatory, or even retaliatory, they raise legitimate questions about fitness for executive leadership. What I'm going to discuss today is based on publicly reported statements, widely circulated videos, and certainly documented incidents. One of the first red flags in executive leadership is publicly attacking another branch of government. Sheriffs work with judges, not against them. When a sheriff publicly criticizes judges for sentencing decisions, it shows a lack of understanding of the separation of powers. It damages working relationships essential to public safety, and it replaces professional restraints with emotional reaction.
Law-abiding citizens and supporters of animal rights. In recent months, a particular Mobile County Circuit judge has made some of the worst rulings from the bench for criminal cases. The recent rulings are despicable from a criminal justice perspective. Sheriff Birch ended the post writing he would soon have more details, including the judge's name. We did reach out for more information, and once we get another update, we will, of course, let you know.
Judges remember them comments. Defense attorneys remember them, and deputies ultimately in the courtroom pay the price. Why? Because even judges and lawyers, unfortunately, can be petty. It's a human flaw. This is not leadership. This is poor executive judgment. Listen, I love the animals, but there are ways that we can handle these things, certainly behind closed doors, and maybe going to the public or to the media as a last resort. Let me address something directly. During my time as the chief of police, I participated in a press conference along with Mayor Stimpson and certainly the chief of staff and the executive director of public safety at that time. At the local judiciary bench was criticized for not reopening the courts after COVID restrictions had eased. The criticism did not originate with me. It was coordinated executive message. And as I was directed to participate as a part of my role. This distinction matters because as an appointed chief of police, I was subordinate with a defined chain of command. The mayor and the chief of staff set policy direction. My responsibility was to support that direction. As a part of a unified executive response, this is fundamentally different from an elected sheriff who operates with constitutional autonomy and answers directly to the voters. An elected sheriff is not following instructions. They are exercising independent judgment. And with that autonomy comes a higher expectation of restraint. Discipline, executive maturity, those things are important. This is not about avoiding accountability. It is about understanding roles, authority, and certainly responsibilities. I would not have chosen to handle the situation that way, but I was a subordinate, not an elected official. Perhaps the most troubling leadership failure involves publicly reported remarks about minority communities that were captured on video and widely circulated. Statements expressing a wish that members of the community would kill each other to solve their problems, suggesting deputies would take action if they had to.
I wish we could put them all in an arena and let them kill the hell out of each other, because that would solve the problem. For our Special Operations Division, and a message to the gang members is, I dare you to pull a gun on one of my guys, because it'll be the last thing you do.
Listen, let me be clear. Political views are irrelevant here. Those statements are executive poison. And why? Well, they are used to establish organizational bias. They undermine deputy credibility, and they invite federal scrutiny. Even if no law was broken, the damage to trust and legitimacy is permanent. If a leader does not understand that, they are not prepared for executive responsibility. Around that same period, a video circulated showing sheriff's deputies of Mobile County assisting federal authorities during a roadside encounter involving what appeared to be a Latino male. And that escalated into a physical altercation. This is not about presuming guilt. This has nothing to do with whether the officers were right or wrong. This is about leadership, the context of leadership. When deputies operate in an environment where leadership rhetoric appears dismissive of certain communities and inflammatory, even when policy may have been followed, this is how leaders expose their people, their deputies, their employees. Good deputies deserve leadership that protects them, not leadership that puts them in legal jeopardy. This isn't about saying deputies did something wrong. Rather, it points that shortly after this event, the Halloween tactics became relevant. Leadership also requires understanding timing, symbolism, and certainly optics. Publicly displaying Halloween decorations depicting ICE agents chasing what appears to be Latino figures, especially after a controversial use of force incident, demonstrates a lack of situational awareness.
Mobile County Sheriff's Office has entered into a contract with ICE to help make arrests of undocumented residents here in Mobile County. But people in the Latino community in Mobile tell us even documented residents fear those efforts, making some hesitant to attend this weekend's Latin Fest in downtown Mobile.
My friends, this is not humor. This is not free speech leadership. This is executive immaturity. It reinforces perceptions of bias. It trivializes constitutional concerns. And frankly, it just damages trust with the entire community as a whole. A sheriff must understand that leadership is always on display. After public criticism and certainly media coverage, the decorations were soon changed. And then it became targeting the neighbor who apparently complained to the media. It was portrayed as a Karen. There was a statue of a Karen. My friends, this is not confidence. This is not strength. This is retaliation. Sheriffs do not retaliate. They are supposed to de-escalate. This behavior reflects thin-skinned, poor impulse control, and an inability to separate personal emotion from executive responsibility. And it teaches deputies exactly the wrong lesson about power. Here are the real-world consequences of this leadership pattern: increased civil liability, damaged credibility in the courts, erosion of community trust, federal scrutiny, lower morale, and certainly an increased risk to officer safety. The harsh reality is good deputies pay the price for poor executive judgment. Many of these actions and statements may not be illegal, but leadership is not measured by what you can get away with. Leadership is measured by judgment, maturity, education, and executive restraint. What we are discussing is not criminal conduct, it's unqualified executive behavior. It reflects a lack of maturity, a lack of education in constitutional policing, and certainly a lack of experience required to lead a modern-day sheriff's office. The badge does not just grant authority, it demands wisdom, compassion, and the people deserve leadership that understands why some things should never be said, especially when you wear the star. Listen, I understand that some people will say that I am wrong for pointing these things out. Others will say, Paul, things have been said about you or your leadership as well. Well, here's the difference. What has been said about me was manufactured. It was a political hit job, and it is not a matter of public record in terms of what was recorded or stated by me. Throughout my career, I was always mindful of what I've said, how I said it, and how I presented myself to the community. What you are seeing here are actual action statements and recordings from someone who is supposed to be above reproach. Bias is not acceptable from an executive law enforcement leader who represents all citizens. As law enforcement executives, we may have a personal opinion, but those opinions must be balanced, tempered by experience, and grounded, certainly in evidence. And when they are not, credibility is certainly lost. My purpose today is simple: to explain the difference between two leadership styles. While these antics are funny to some people, they disparage others. While they may be accepted by many, it won't be funny when the same antics or dismissive attitude are about you or your family when you find yourself in need of help. Listen, my friends, again, thank you for watching the program. As always, say, Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We'll see you on the next episode. But always remember, Paul Prime is tough on crime.